Hi guys, so I'm going to make a video doing spiral plied yarns. I noticed that oftentimes when I see photographs of people spiral plied yarns, it'll have sections of coils, areas where the spiral is bunched up to look like super coils, and so I'm going to show you in this video how to avoid that, how to have a nice even spiral ply every single time. Okay, so I'm spinning on a lendrum today. I am spinning some beautiful yarn that was made from Rolex from Blue Mountain Handcrafts. These were gifted to me by a special someone. You know who you are. And my ply thread is this awesome metallic thread from Kamaj Fiber Arts. Also awesome, Mary Egbert. Make sure you check her out. She has great stuff. So there are two elements to making a really nice, consistent spiral plied yarn. One element is the tension that you keep on the ply thread. If you look at the way I'm holding my ply thread, and it's probably pretty difficult to see, but I will show you here. I've got it running over my first finger here, down under my thumb, and between my thumb and my middle finger. And between my thumb and my middle finger is where I'm applying pressure to keep tension on that thread. Meanwhile, I've got my working yarn here, and I'm not putting any tension on that. I'm just feeding it onto the thread that I'm plying with. So that's the first element, is maintaining tension on your ply thread. It's not, you don't want to be pulling, you don't want to struggle with it, you just want it to stay tight. Taut is a good word. The other element is the angle of your working yarn. Oftentimes when you see people spiral plying, you'll see them holding the yarn out to the side at an angle, and that is great for making coils. But coils aren't the same thing as spirals. Coils tend to bunch. So if you look how I'm moving this, you can see that's going to bunch up as it's going to move around along the thread. And so when you're spiral plying, if you do you're plying at an angle, as it goes into the orifice and over your hooks, the pressure riding against those is going to cause it to bunch up in places. And that's why you'll see those unintentional coils on occasion in your spiral plied yarn. The way that you can fix that if you catch it while you're spinning is to pull it out and then let it rerun on. Okay? Okay, so I've now got a toddler on my lap because she's cranky, and that's just how it's going to happen. And that's how we roll around here oftentimes. So, as I was saying, if you hold your yarn out at an angle, what you're going to end up with is the perfect spiral for creating coils. But that's not what we're going for right now. We're going for just the spiral without the coiling. So what you want to do is you actually want your ply thread and your working thread to run into the orifice straight on, together. Because what's creating the coil is the tension that you're keeping on your ply thread. So, what you can do to test and make sure that your angle is narrow enough, because you can hold it out to a little bit of a degree, but how you can test it as you go along is to stop and run your finger along the length of your yarn. And if it doesn't bunch up, you're golden. Just keep on plying. So the two elements, as we discussed, are the tension on the ply thread and the angle of the yarns. And you want both your yarns running in the same direction. Straight on into the orifice. If you do these two things, you should get a perfect spiral ply every time. There are also things that you can do to ensure as you're spinning along that you're getting a balanced ply in your spiral ply. This isn't such a great method if you are using a solid color, but if you have multiple colors in your working yarn, It's a really handy little trick. So when you spun your single and it had multiple colors in it, those multiple colors barber poled around each other. But as you spiral ply, they will become parallel lines of color. And if your thread ply looks relatively straight, relatively parallel lines in your yarn, then it's pretty balanced. You can also do the typical thing where you sort of see if it kinks back on itself. You don't want it to not do this at all. You want a little bit of loopage, because if it doesn't do it at all, if it just kind of hangs there without any energy, what's going to happen is after you set the twist in your yarn, it's going to be underplied. Remember that your yarn is going to relax a little bit when you set it. So you don't want it to hang perfectly straight. You want half a twist in your skein before you set it. One or two twists are even fine. That will relax out when you set it. But this is just kind of a way, as you go along, that you can test and see, am I spinning a relatively balanced yarn, so that in the finished product you don't end up with a mass of twists and turns. I do not know what my daughter is doing in her room, but it sounds like there's a bowling alley in there. So, alright. Any other tips and tricks? There is one other thing, and this applies to any plying yarn. You can do this when you Navajo ply. Okay, there's a little kink in my yarn right here. I don't know how well you can see it. Maybe if I pull it out you can see it's over twisted there a little bit. There's a hard knot. So what I will do when I get those is I will twist out. I'll twist out that kink and run the ply thread up at the same time. Let's see if I can find another one here really quickly. There's a little one right there, so just twist back and keep going. I don't normally pause. Twist back, keep going. You know, even the most advanced spinners on occasion will get those spots of over twist in their yarn. You know, you get comfortable with your pace, and then you start watching TV or paying attention to the kids or thinking about the grocery list, and you go later to ply and you find that you've created some gnarly coils in there. So that's just an easy way as you're plying to get those little bits of twist out. You really don't want those in your finished yarn if it's not an intended part of your design element. So there we go. Perfect spiral ply every time. Thanks a lot. Okay, so here's the finished yarn. I have not set it yet. You can see it hangs pretty nicely. This will full and even out when I set the twist. Here's some skeins that I've done that have had the twist set already. This is a great one. This is the Superfine Merino Stellina blend. I would love to be able to find a place where I can get this blended without the regular merino, so it could just be Superfine Merino and Stellina, but that's okay. And then here is another one that I did with spiral plied with the metallic thread from Kamaj Fiber Arts, which is just really awesome stuff. This is some Superfine Merino, alpaca, I think there's some silk in there. It's super soft, and the metallic thread just gives it a whole nother dimension. So I hope you have lots of fun spiral plying. Thanks.